Howdy, howdy, and welcome to My Bloody Judy with your final forgets, myself, Zachary Patton Garcia.
And Ian Carlos Crawford.
Yeah, so we are going to be returning to Haddonfield today, 40 years later. Seems like only yesterday, Ian. You like that joke? So there are 11 Halloween films, I believe, and as we said in our previous episode, there's just too many to go through. So we are doing the original 1978 Halloween and then the most recent Halloween 2018, which Ian just saw for the first time as we watched it the other day. What were your first thoughts on it, on your very first watch?
I liked it. I definitely liked it. I definitely had issues with it, but I thought it was good. I think a lot of the things that are lacking in it are the things that I knew would be lacking. I feel like I don't... It's the things that bothered me going into it still bothered me throughout the whole movie. Like all the things that I've said, like bother me about continuity and about like, oh, but like she only saw Michael once and it's only for 20 minutes and like, and like, why did he leave that headstone in the bed and all that shit that like, that stuff continued to bother me. I thought this one was a little bit messy, but I don't mind a little bit messy. Like honestly, especially in a horror movie, like a horror movie like this. If it's something like Hereditary that's supposed to be like, oh, there's like a metaphor here and all that, then I'll get a little bit more mad. But if it's something where it's like Scream or Halloween, where it's like straight up, there's a killer killing people, here's our hero that we love, I'm okay with a little bit of mess. You know, there's the doctor plot, which I knew was going nowhere, and I was like, if he's evil, that seems too obvious and too stupid, and then he was evil. Yeah, so, but I liked it. I definitely liked it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an enjoyable watch, and watching it in the theater with everybody, like, because it is one of those movies. It's not Hereditary, so you don't have a bunch of, like, everybody sitting in the theater. My Hereditary theaters were, because I think I went to see it twice in the theater, and it was, I mean, there weren't very many people in there, but Halloween, like, it was packed in the theater. And it was just a different watching experience. Everybody was yelling at the screen and stuff like that. It's that kind of horror movie. And the ones who really take it seriously are like the hardcore Halloween fans. But I mean, if you're just going as a casual viewer, it's still a really enjoyable experience. It's a good watch. There are faults with it. Some pretty big ones too. Like the whole doctor thing. I agree. Fucking useless, man. Useless. I'm glad we smashed his head in, though. So there's no chance of him coming back. It's 40 years later, and we open up at Smith's Grove Sanitarium. Michael Myers has been here for the past 40 years. Two podcasters show up to interview him, see him, something. Try to get some sort of something out of him. We meet Dr. Sartain, who has been Michael's doctor for the past however many years since Dr. Loomis died. So it's explained that Dr. Loomis died and Dr. Sartain took over. And Dr. Sartain is very explicit. He says, you know, don't get too close to Michael. Michael hasn't said a word in, 40 years. He's just been here. And so we come into this big courtyard. It looks like a chessboard. We approach Michael. We don't see him. We just see the back of him. There's a bunch of other patients around, kind of getting restless as the two podcasters kind of antagonize Michael a little bit. They have Michael Myers' mask from the original movie, and it's weathered, worn, and they got it from a friend at the district attorney's office, is what they said, I think. And yeah, they're kind of antagonizing him with it a little bit. They're trying to get some sort of reaction from him, and we can tell that he feels the mask, and they can tell that he feels the mask, but he's giving them nothing. And as the crazy people around him get even crazier, so does the podcaster, and he starts yelling, "Michael, say something, say something, say something." And then boom, like one of the best smash cuts into an opening sequence. What did you think of this opening sequence?
Right as I was about to be like, this is too much, they went to the opening sequence, and I was like, okay. Because one, it was like, oh boy, these podcasters are going to die. And two, it was like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, I feel like I didn't quite get like what they were there to like see him and, for their show or whatever. But I felt like, why are they yelling at this mass murderer? Like what? Yeah. What's the thing you hope for? That he murders you, or like, And that felt a little too, like, I was like, ugh, I get it. But then the credits rolled, and I was like, okay. They, like, cut it just as I was getting annoyed, and then the credits were cool, so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, especially since he's in a psychiatric hospital with other patients around, so, like, for them to be yelling and, like, antagonizing him in that way, it doesn't seem professional on the doctor's part for the doctor to allow them to do that. But I mean, we learned the doctor's not that professional anyway. These opening credits, man. So there's a pumpkin. It's the same opening credits almost as the original. It's just the pumpkin we open on a dead pumpkin and it just comes back to life, it was a really, really cool shot, representing Halloween is back. It is rising from the dead. We get all of the titles, and it's not as long as the original, which I did like. They kind of sped through it. It was about a minute maybe. Perfect opening sequence. I loved it. And then we jump immediately to the podcasters are on their way to Laurie Strode's house. Laurie Strode. This movie, I love whenever we pick up with Laurie Strode. So 20 years later, I loved when we did that. I love us picking up with Laurie Strode 40 years later. It's just... her character, I feel like, is a great exploration of trauma. So we've talked about in the last one that, Laurie Strode, if left at the first movie, there wasn't that much to her. Like, she was a good final girl. She was enjoyable to watch, but, left at that, she wasn't, I think what you said was she wasn't that dynamic, right?
Yeah.
The real consequences of a situation like that, something that carries with you, some trauma like that, it's really nice to explore with her. And I wish we could get it for other final girls as well. I mean, we've got it for poor Sidney Prescott.
Like, don't you dare forget about Sidney Prescott.
Oh no, she never gets away from this shit. I said before, Laurie Strode goes through this every 20 to 40 years, but Nev Campbell has to deal with it every couple years.
Nev Campbell's like, oh, you dealt with it twice in 40 years? Well, every 5 years, all of my friends are murdered.
It's like, I can't make any meaningful relationships. I can't have a boyfriend. I can't,
the only person I can be friends with is Gail fucking Weathers.
And I don't even like Gail Weathers. We just are brought together by circumstance. I punch her every couple years. So these podcasters go to see Laurie. When we see Laurie's house, there's this big gate around it. The house is not it hasn't been kept up very well. She's got mannequins everywhere that she uses for target practice. Laurie Strode has built a fortress for herself. Nobody is getting in, nobody's getting out without her knowing it. And so they pull up to the gate, and she's not really receptive to doing any sort of interviews until they offer her $3,000. And then she buzzes them in real quick. But you know what? I understand it. Give me $3,000. She probably could have banked on this notoriety a little bit over the years. I wonder how much she actually did, if any.
I always think about that, like, push up my glasses. In the horror book I'm writing, because, like, part of it takes place after it, I'm always like, like, what kind of interviews would these people be doing? Like, if they survived a horror movie scenario. Like, I mean, even if they didn't want to do them, I feel like they do, like, one or two before they were like, oh, nope. Or maybe, like, after 10 years, they might do one. I always think of shit like that. Like, and I'm like, I wonder, like, did Laurie Strode go on Gail Weathers' show at least once?
It's a crossover of the century.
They both tell each other to fuck off.
I mean, but it is an interesting concept, and like you writing your book, that is an interesting thing to explore. It seems they all do some sort of interview. They all end up doing a book or something to kind of profit off of what they've been through, which is totally fair. You know what? You cannot hate on anybody for any of that. You know, if you're going to get anything out of it, you should get some monetary gain. Even Sidney Prescott wrote a book, you know? So it's fair. But what we've known from Laurie is that, what we get from this movie is that she's just stayed in Haddonfield. I remember watching all this behind the scenes stuff coming out while they were filming, and they would like Jamie Lee Curtis would like take a picture of some of the prop items, and like a couple of them were like past due bills that were just sitting on the counter, which we didn't see a close-up of anything or anything like that. But I liked seeing that in behind the scenes stuff, because it just helps to fill in those gaps that, like, she's pretty much let her life go to shit. All she is worried about is preparation, preparation, preparation. She knows Michael's coming back. She has turned into the Dr. Loomis of the movie, which we're actually made to believe. So we're set up to believe that she's more of the Dr. Loomis of the movie, but really, her and Michael are kind of interchangeable here. Like, in her whole scenario has also created a monster out of her, you know? And I think that is very evident in the filmmaker swapping out her and Michael's bits from the past movie and this movie. You know, we see her in a lot of parts that he was in. The podcasters begin interviewing Lori, and I feel like immediately they were super unprofessional. You know, they were bringing up a lot, like within the first like 3 minutes, they're bringing up the fact that she lost her child to social services, never got her back. She's had 2 divorces, and they're kind of sympathizing with Michael Myers while also tearing down her character, you know?
That brings me to something that I'm going to point out that is my main gripe with this movie. There's a world in which this movie is written by a Trump supporter, right? Because
Could be.
It's like, look, she's right. She had all these guns. She was right. Look, the media was wrong. Look how wrong they were. Look how stupid these teens were. And like all of those points, I don't love. I will say I do not love. And I felt like there was a little bit of that with like the podcasters, because it's like, why the fuck would they, like, they're paying $3,000. They're also paying $3,000 for this interview. If you are paying that much for an interview, I don't know what fucking podcast is making that kind of money, first. And second, I don't know what kind of podcast has that money and then is like, well, let's throw it away by pissing her off with like the second fucking question. No, you would like, if you're conducting that interview, you even if you want to ask that, maybe you wait till the end. So it's like, oh, she kicks us out. And we got in some good questions. But the fact that they're immediately so unprofessional, they go to Michael, they're screaming at him. They go to her and they're like, so you lost your child. I don't love that. I don't love all of that. And it feels like Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who has all these guns and all these weapons, is the only character that's not too stupid in this movie. So all of that I'm like, about.
I don't think that means she's like a Trump supporter or anything. I'm not saying that you're saying that she's a Trump supporter, but
no.
I don't think it's like, feels like it's been written by a Trump supporter. I don't know if I would agree with that point.
I mean, I don't think Danny McBride is. I know he's one of the writers, but like, it's very like straight guy to me. All of that is very, because like how annoying Judy Greer is till the very end. And it's like, your mom was literally attacked. Like, this happened. You're pretending this didn't happen. Why would you be this stupid? And all of it just like, there's like little things like that. I say that, but I do like the movie, but like the case could be made. If like Danny McBride did come out as being like, oh yeah, no, I love Fox News, I would be like, I'm not too surprised.
I feel like you're getting in that just because of the guns. You know what? I don't mind a woman with a bunch of guns.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind that. It's the fact that everyone else is so wrong.
Okay. Fair, fair enough. I mean, but you always have to have, so I just feel like maybe what they were, and maybe unintentionally they did what you said they were doing, but I think what they were trying to go for was like, say this would be the new Loomis and nobody listened to Loomis in the original. So I think that's what they were kind of going for, because this movie, straight off the bat, this movie is a repetition of the original. It is for the new audiences. It's like, if you didn't see the original, it's okay, because we got you in this one, and you can just pick up from here. So yeah, I mean, maybe they did unintentionally do that.
I mean, I barely, I think it's barely intentional, but there was just like a lot of those little things that bothered me.
I can see it though. I get you, Ian. That is fair. It is very fair.
I feel like this is going to be the first video that gets the most comments because people are going to be mad at me.
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of people would agree with you. Maybe.
To her credit though, Jamie Lee Curtis is like on immediately. Like, she is such a good actor, and it's like immediate that it's like, I almost would have, I wished Lori had a better entrance, but Jamie Lee Curtis is so good that it's like, I don't know.
I did think about that. So when I like to rewrite things in my head a lot. I'm a big headcanon type of person, but
are you telling me that? I didn't know that.
I couldn't figure out how I would have introduced her, because I agree with you. I feel like it was weird, but I don't know. See, that's why I think the Halloween Returns script, if they would have taken a little piece of that, like maybe Michael Myers is being put to death and maybe she's at like the sentencing or something like that. And that's where we could have picked up with her first, maybe. I don't know. But I don't mind it. Like you said, Jamie Lee Curtis like owns this fucking role. This is her role. And you know, she's just like the podcasters are making her out to be a basket case. You know, she even says Michael Myers murders however many people, and I'm the basket case because I've been divorced twice. You know,
Right.
it's just ridiculous. So the podcasters get kicked out. And then we jump to Lori's daughter, Karen, and her granddaughter, Allison, and Karen's husband, Ray. Karen, I do think, is a very interesting concept of a character. I love Judy Greer. Nothing wrong with her or anything like that, but they didn't give her a lot. They kind of gave, like, they scratched the surface of what maybe a character like Karen would have gone through. And the fucking name Karen, too. It's just not, did
Feels
not
like a
age
joke,
well
right?
in 2 years. But, you know, you got to think of it. Like, growing up with a mother like Laurie Strode, if we're painting Laurie Strode to be the hyper paranoid mother that she would have been, even in like interviews that I've seen Jamie Lee Curtis saying that she created this whole backstory to fill in the gap between the 40 years, and she basically said that going to Karen's school, like during parent teacher day, she would raise her hand and say, hey, what's your exit strategy, while all the other parents were asking, like, you know, what's the lunch program like. And I think that paints a very good picture of, like, this is why Karen is so just over her fucking mom. She's just over her mom, and maybe she feels like she has to have some sort of relationship out of obligation, but her mom lost her because she wasn't being a good parent, and that would create some sort of resentment. So yeah, Karen maybe doesn't get it. Like, she knows her mom went through all this and stuff like that, but it's still, when you've had your own trauma inflicted on you, that's all you can kind of focus on at the moment, you know? And Karen has her own trauma because of this. So it's just a whole domino effect, and it's really sad for this whole family. And then the granddaughter's really trying to, like, connect everybody back together, and the granddaughter,
I wish we would have gotten a little more with the granddaughter and Lori, because I felt like I liked it, and then like once, and then it's like they separated for most of the movie. But I did like, I mean, we're not there yet, but yeah.
No, I agree with you. So the granddaughter basically has, what was it, honor society, something like that. I don't know. I didn't do anything in high school. She's honor society or something like that, and she's having some little ceremony that night, and she wants Lori to come because that's her grandmother. And Karen's like, yeah, I invited her, but it's obviously Karen's obviously lying here, and Allison knows it. So Allison takes off for school. I did like that it wasn't this big table full of food, and she just grabs like a piece of toast and an orange juice and just,
I know, I hate when
gotta
that
go. Yeah, there was no breakfast on that table. But Allison and her friend Vicky and Vicky's boyfriend Dave walk to school. This is our 3 walking scene on you know, walking down the street. I love the town in this. It feels very fall. It feels very Midwest Haddonfield. And they're walking down the street, and I love that we get our kind of explanation why we have retconned the sequels, and how do you explain all the sequels being retconned? Well, they said basically all the sequels were just stories that people were telling in the town. They were like, and I know Ian doesn't agree with this, but I think it was a genius way to do it. It's just like, I think Dave says, wasn't he her brother or something? And Allison's like, no, that's just something that people made up. Perfect. But Ian does not agree with me.
I would not use the word perfect to describe that, but continue.
Horse shit. Horse shit.
While it also ends up being a flaw of the movie, I do like that we spend enough time with these characters before they all get murdered. As in the original, we spend a lot of time with the girls before they're murdered, and it's I appreciate that while maybe I don't care as much about the teen story, they at least try to give them like, you know, there's the honor society, there's the dance, there's, you know, the boy that likes her that she doesn't like, her boyfriend cheating. Like, I can appreciate the effort there. Like, I don't know that I love all of it, but I appreciate them bothering, because I feel like, in especially like we said, like movies that don't have like the deeper whatever Hereditary, if it's just like murder or killing people, they don't often even try with those. So I can appreciate them even doing this, giving us the scene of them talking, even if it's shorter. Because for me, I'm like, okay, cool. Make me actually care about these characters before they're, you know, most of them are murdered.
Yeah, because they are likable characters. I think all of them are likable, but I agree with you. Like, they dropped the ball at some point where, even in the original, I guess because we spent so much time with all of the characters that I enjoyed them, and I did care. Like, when Annie died, I cared.
And there was less of them.
Didn't care as much when these characters died, but I did like them. I like Vicky a lot. I just wish we got And we got enough of her, though. So where do you think they dropped the ball on Vicky? Because she got some screen time. But yeah, no, they're all very likable teenagers. You know, they're fun. They're fun. Perfect word for it.
Yeah.
I think with the sequels, they're wanting to give Allison more of a role, and I hope they do, because if she's supposed to be the Laurie of this movie, I just didn't feel it, you know? Or maybe, you know what I did? Maybe she wasn't as dynamic, you know? Laurie wasn't if we're saying Laurie wasn't the most dynamic in the original, maybe Allison isn't here either.
But Laurie wasn't dynamic, but then she still got to, like, be the final girl. Allison did not, at any point, feel like the final girl. Allison is, like, lost in the woods.
She's like... Okay.
After we recorded our last episode, Zach said I was too nice. And I was like, I don't want to shit on something you like. And Zach loves arguing. So here we are, Zachary.
I love Ian shitting on this stuff because it's a better conversation this way. I like this conversation so far. So Allison sees Laurie. Allison's in class and sees Laurie outside of the window, just like in the original when Laurie saw Michael. So we're interchanging Laurie and Michael's roles here, kind of.
I love that. I love that.
Did you like it? I was wondering if you would like it. And we didn't even talk about that when we were watching it.
I wrote it in my notes, though.
There you go. Ooh, I'm glad you liked it.
I wrote in all caps, I love the teen girl seeing her grandma Laurie outside her classroom the same way Laurie saw Michael.
I love the scene immediately following when Laurie and... Like, I agree with you 100%. I wish we got more of Allison and Laurie because it seems like Karen wants to just disconnect, but Allison is very intrigued by Laurie, and we could have gotten a lot more... of that fill-in for the past 40 years through Allison and Laurie's discussions, because we get a really good one at the football field. Laurie basically visits Allison at school to give her the $3,000.
I love.
Allison says, well, I'll just use it for college. And Laurie's like, fuck college. It's just Laurie's mindset. Laurie's basically like, fuck college, go to Mexico or something. Like, get out of here. Go on. And I love that because Laurie watching Allison, she's got to just be seeing the potential that she had way back when before all of this happened, because we see Laurie in this movie and she's very stuck in time. She's got the same haircut, like she's just stuck, you know. And Allison's this free bird, and Laurie's like, "Fucking go, man! Open the cage door, let it go."
Yeah, And I mean, I've said this when we talk about movies that are about grief. As someone who, like, I was, you know, the little gay boy that was my Puerto Rican grandma's favorite. I really like kind of like out there grandma and like her favorite grandchild relationship. And so I'm especially like, I don't know. I feel like I can't think of a horror movie when we've gotten that where it's not like the grandma's evil.
Yeah, the grandma's always evil, right?
God, my next note is I really have trouble with all the gun talk. Does she ask her granddaughter to buy a gun?
No, I didn't see that.
There's somewhere in between. So. There's a.
When she goes to Karen's house, she tells Karen to get a gun.
Okay, right.
Or she tries to give Karen her gun. But here, the last time we see, or when Laurie is leaving, Allison basically tells her straight up, "Look, Michael's gone. He's not here. It's been 40 years. It's cost you your family. Get over it." She says it plainly. Get over it. And like, in a way, fucking agree. I agree, because you know what? It's ruined your life at this point. This is your chance. You only have so many years left. But at the same time, you know, Laurie's right. Laurie's ultimately right. So
Laurie's like, no, I'm going to go kidnap that Michigan senator.
Like, oh my gosh, she could have. I don't even feel like Laurie doesn't even vote. You know that. Laurie doesn't give a fuck about the election. She's like, Michael Myers is coming.
So like, as someone who has also had someone tell them to get over their trauma, I feel like I'm Laurie and my mom's the daughter sometimes, because my mom is very like, get over it, we're moving on, and I'm very, no, this terrible thing. And so that's where I have mixed feelings. But I mean, that's not a bad thing, because I'm like, Laurie maybe has too many guns. But also Karen's telling her to get over her trauma when like a bunch of her friends were murdered when she was a teen. Yeah. But like also she ruined Karen's childhood, so with all the guns.
Yeah. I do enjoy the multiple angles here. You know, Karen probably didn't want to hold a fucking gun at 12 years old and learn how to shoot a gun. She didn't want to have to be, you know, hot wiring traps and, you know, booby traps in her house.
And right, and that would be scary, right? If your mom's like, there's a monster and he's coming to kill you, like, every night of your life.
Yeah, 100%. And so I enjoy that we're kind of seeing it from different angles. I wish we would have focused a little bit less on like other stuff and kind of focused more on this, because I get that they were trying to not make Laurie the main character here, but we're watching for fucking Laurie Strode. Yes. You know, we're waiting for that, you know, inevitable meetup. So that night, Michael Myers is being transferred to a maximum security prison where he is meant to just live out the rest of his days and die. I don't know why he didn't do that like 20 years ago, but, you know, they're doing it now, and Laurie makes it a point to, she's going to be there, she's going to watch it. She pulls up in her truck. I know you have a problem with all the guns and the way she's kind of is in this movie. I really like Laurie Strode in this movie. I think she's such a badass. But she and I love her in a truck, and she shows up in her truck, and she's watching Michael pull away in the bus, and the bus is pulling away from the sanitarium, and she just physically cannot handle it, and she screams. And like, I think seeing Jamie Lee Curtis just scream like that, not out of like, you know, oh, there's a killer chasing me, but out of like, my fucking life, this ruined my fucking life, you know, like, it just gave me chills, and it just cuts off and leaves you wanting more. And then she shows up at the family dinner that I guess nobody was really expecting her to show up at, and she is like, she's on like 12 cups of coffee and a Red Bull. She is jittery. She's like,
well, and she downed all the little vodka
big
bottles.
Sips of, she did, in her truck while she was watching. She was drinking, because she's an alcoholic in this movie. She's a recovering alcoholic, and so she's drinking again. And Karen even says that when she shows up at dinner. Mom, I thought you stopped drinking, because she picks up the glass of wine and starts chugging it. I was thinking the other day, I was like, was this a nod to that meme of Jamie Lee Curtis, like, drinking it and, like, holding her you've seen that one, right?
But also, I mean, in H2O, isn't that, like, she an alcoholic in H2O?
Mm-hmm.
Because when she's like, another Chardonnay.
H2O was supposed to be the movie that this kind of was, but a little bit more. H2O was supposed to be a lot more serious and not as teen summer horror flick, you know. But it is teen summer horror flick, Ian. It feels like summer. It feels like teens getting murdered to Creed. That's what it fucking is.
Well, you're wrong.
Okay, we're gonna get to that one. We're gonna get to that one. Okay. So yeah, Laurie shows up at dinner, and she is having a breakdown. She sits down. She's like, she can't even engage in the conversation all that much. And
I love this shit. This is the shit I love. This is the shit that, like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we get hints of this with Sydney, but she's like pretty composed. But like, this is the kind of shit that I'm very much interested in seeing. You know, I love the idea of this final girl, like, you know, being a grandma and being like a grandma who can't get it together at like a fucking family dinner. Yeah. I wish we'd gotten a little bit more of this scene. Like, I wish she had sat down and there had been like, okay, maybe she's fucking up, but she's like still staying for dinner.
No, so this is what I wish we got more of. And I'm pretty sure you would agree with me here. It's like, because Laurie is, like I said, Laurie's breaking down here, and Karen is giving her shit, and Allison's basically like, Mom, stop. Like, she's hurting right now. And because Laurie literally just saw him, you know, take off, and she's like, I saw him. And like, finally Laurie gets up, and she leaves, and she goes and stands out by like the road, and Allison follows her out. And I wish we would have gotten a conversation there, like some sort of like, I know I should get over it. It's really hard. I cannot do it. Like, there's just something, but we at least get like a little moment where like Laurie just reverts back to like 17-year-old girl, rests her head on her granddaughter's shoulder, and is kind of being consoled by her granddaughter.
I mean, I do think that is a sweet like image. Like, maybe we should have had the conversation and it ends with that.
Yeah.
Because it is, I do like the imagery of that, because Laurie's like the grandma and this is her granddaughter, but she's being consoled by her, you know, teen granddaughter. And for me, that's good imagery. That's a tender moment. But yeah, I do wish we had just like gotten a little, because like this is kind of the last, right? This is kind of like the last like moment they get together where it's not like people are being murdered.
Yeah. I don't even think they see each other until Michael's already on the loose, right? So it would have been very, very nice. Laurie leaves, and we get Karen kind of, you know, they said in 15 seconds, Judy Greer, tell me what happened in your childhood. She's like, I should have told you about my childhood. She taught me how to shoot a gun, and she taught me how to do this. And it's just more showing and less telling a little bit. You know, I'd like to see something, just something. I feel like there's other parts of the movie we could have cut out to make time for that.
But then, Michael's, we get this gay child and his father, which now I'm going to be annoying about.
Okay, go for it.
As someone who worked at a movie theater in a very, like, white trash area, I know how parts are played in movies that maybe they're not meant to be, but I just know the idea of this, like, boy going hunting with his dad who's like, but I love dancing. Like, I know there are theaters that laughed at that, right? Like, I just know there are. And so for me, like, I'm like, a straight guy wrote this thinking he was being cute. Just don't have it be like that. Like, you could just, I don't know. Like, for me, that shit bothers me because, like, that movie theater I worked at for 3 years, like, I remember Rules of Attraction, people laughing at the gay guys kissing, and, like, that shit still happens. And so I'm like, can you be a little bit more careful with this gay boy who is going to get murdered in 5 minutes?
Yeah. I don't know. I see the point. I didn't mind it so much. I think I liked the dad's response to it, which was because we didn't get. Here's the thing: is like the scene really shouldn't have been there because we're gonna see them die in 2 seconds anyway. Right. So just pull it out altogether, you know, because we get this kind of opening up between them two, and then and the dad's like seems kind of open to it, like, you know, you really like dancing, don't you? But then, like, we don't get anything because these characters don't matter to us. They're gonna die. The bus has crashed. The dad gets out to go and check. The boy calls 911. He gets out.
The dispatcher tells him to get out.
Yeah. Oh, what the fuck was that?
I was like, the dispatcher's telling this raspy gay boy to go die? Like,
yeah. This boy says, hold on, let me go check. The dispatcher should have said, stay in your car, lock your door.
Yeah.
Just wait. We're sending one officer. Wait. And yeah, the boy dies. It's one of the, we don't really ever see Michael Myers kill kids, and it did hit. I remember in the theater, everybody was quiet. Nobody really said anything at that moment, because I don't know how I felt about it, but that whole thing happens, and
it is brutal.
The next day,
he also accidentally shoots the doctor who survived the crash.
Yes, Dr. Sartain.
Which I will say, so in my brain,
yeah,
I was like, oh, this is too stupid if the doctor is in cahoots with Michael. But, like, obviously that's why he survived, right? But, like, no. But I also don't understand why Michael didn't kill him here, but did kill him later.
I don't think he's in cahoots with Michael. I think that
But the doctor's the only one that he doesn't murder on that bus.
I don't know. See, it's just that there's a weird plot holes right there, right? Like, it just doesn't. There's some things dots that weren't connected and are probably never going to be connected in regards to all this. But the bus has crashed. Michael's got away. All these patients from Smith Grove, they're also running around. It's very reminiscent of the opening scene in the original movie. The dad and the son both die, and then the next day we go back to the podcasters, and the podcasters are at a gas station. It's just, this is their murder scene. You know, they die here.
We see them putting.
What did you think of her death, though? I did like her death. I thought it was a good callback to H2O.
Yes, I agree.
Did
you know what? I forgot. I was like, which isn't this in a Halloween movie or is this in a Scream movie? I couldn't remember what horror movie it was like, but yeah.
It was a good one. And you
so
got that playful.
So I felt like this 10-minute span were weirdly more violent than the rest of the movie, which, like, I don't know, it doesn't bother me, but it just felt weird that like that guy's jaw's ripped off, the guy at the gas station, and you see his ripped off jaw. And no one, and he, the beating he gives the guy podcaster is weirdly brutal right after the very brutal choking of the child. And then he cracks you. I'm assuming he just smushes her head, right?
Yeah. Is he choking her? I don't know. She goes out of frame.
He's holding her like
something
this.
like that. Yeah.
It doesn't bother me, but it feels weirdly unbalanced for this 10 minutes to be hyper violent, and then everyone else is stabbed or something, but that's it.
Yeah, I do think they should have died a little bit earlier. we didn't have to keep following them up until this point in the movie.
Right.
But it was a good moment. And then this is how Michael gets his mask, which is like and I also feel like they could have done this a different way too. Like it's just he's out in the middle of like everywhere. He's in this gas station in the middle of the daytime, and kills a mechanic and gets his overalls, and then goes into this podcaster's car and pulls up the trunk and gets this mask and puts it on in front of everybody. So it's like weird that nobody even like notices.
Okay, and my notes do say at this point he has killed more people than he killed in the first movie. If we're erasing
they're
everything,
going for
this
body
is more
count
people
here, so they're basically just upping that body count right back to where it was. So Lori hears
doubling it. They're doubling it.
Yeah, they're really going for it. And over the course of the next two movies, I guarantee it's going to be like it's going to be astronomical. Lori hears that Michael has escaped, and she goes into a tailspin. I do want to mention this. There's a big fan theory that, I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. Lori, in her kind of freak out, drove the bus off the road. She like rammed it maybe with a truck or something like that. And I thought that would have been such a perfect plot point. That would have been such a great point of storytelling where she just physically like wants to get at him, that she does that, and she unintentionally sets off this night of terror. But we don't get that, so it doesn't fucking matter.
I mean, I don't think it's like when you told me that, I was like, I don't know, that makes sense.
It makes sense. It's just Danny McBride didn't think of that shit. Lori hears he's escaped. She runs to Karen's house, and like Karen basically doesn't.
We both kind of yelled the same thing during this scene. It's like, if they would just pause a moment and talk about what happened. Michael literally did escape, so no, don't kick your crazy mom out of the house who's saying, I told you so, even though she's coming to say, I told you so.
Well, like, the problem with these fucking movies is always, every fucking movie, there's always the problem with nobody takes the second to say, wait, let me explain to you what I'm saying. She just comes running in, she's like, the bus crashed. And
Here's
the daughter's
gun.
like, what bus crashed? And like, nobody explains it. She maybe could have said the bus crashed that Michael was on. Michael is loose, and I was just at the gas station, and people are dead. So, like, just listen for a second, Karen. But nobody does that. Laura gets kicked out of the house, and then that night, Michael goes on a killing spree. This fucking long tracking shot is so good. You did enjoy this, right? Okay, good. I would have been my heart would have been hurt. My little gay heart. But this long tracking shot of Michael basically stepping onto a street, taking a breath, and then going from house to house, murdering like everybody that he can in these houses, and it's so good.
I think the scene is like ridiculously good.
Allison's at the dance, and Allison's boyfriend is just a dick. Cameron's just a dick. He kisses another girl. We got this little high school drama, and I think that's supposed to lead to Allison not having her phone because Karen throws it into the pudding. At Julian's house, Vicky is babysitting, and her boyfriend Dave comes over, and they're gonna do a little hanky-panky, but Julian comes downstairs and said, hey, somebody's in my closet. Somebody's up in my closet. It's a freaking man. He's looking at me.
I put in my notes, the moment she says, you are getting dry fucked tonight, ooh boy, are they both getting stabbed to death.
Poor Vicky. She deserved better.
And I thought that actress was really good. I looked her up to see, but she's not really
Is she in other stuff?
She's been in, bit parts, but nothing. But I really liked her. I thought she was
Give her more to do, y'all. Come on. Go hire Vicky. She would do good in other horror movies, I think. She should start out there. But Vicky goes upstairs and checks under the bed and all that, and then she goes and looks in the closet, and when she looks in the closet, Michael is in the closet. This part was at the end of the trailer that came out, and I remember being a little upset that it was at the trailer because it was a good jump moment if nobody had seen it.
It was spoiled for me. I knew that it was. Someone had just posted it on their Insta story the day before we watched it, because I was like, "Oh, what horror movie is this?" As I was watching the scene, and I was like, "Oh, it's Halloween. There's Michael Myers."
That's what I'm fucking worried about. It's all these movies that Ian hasn't seen. I'm so excited to show you so many of them, and I'm like, "But he's on Twitter, and gays love horror movies. All gays do is munch butts and celebrate Halloween."
Look at you with a pop culture reference, Zachary.
That's such a bad show, but I do love Jessica Lange. So Vicky dies, and then Dave is at the very last moment, Vicky's already fucking dead. Dave is like, fuck this. He's gonna do some shit, and then it cuts, and obviously Dave died too. Julian takes off running out of the house. Smart Julian. Hope he gets away through the next two movies too.
Yeah.
And then so there's a domestic disturbance call that goes out over the radio, the police scanners.
But I assumed that was
but
them, like someone calling the police thinking they were having.
It could be, yeah. But Lori has a scanner in her truck because she would. So my mom does this. She listens to the police scanner to see what's going on. She's like super nosy, and she like looks up all the codes that they're talking about so she can figure out what's going on in town.
That's a very suburban thing.
When we saw this in the theater, I was like, "That's my fucking mother."
Didn't you have friends? I had friends when I was a teen that like had them in their. Yeah, that had them.
That is so funny. Yeah. And Lori goes to the house. Lori is basically a sheriff here. It would have made sense for Lori to be like a sheriff, I guess.
Yeah, just make her
like if her
yeah,
something. But yeah, so she shows up and then fucking Deputy Officer Hawkins, I guess he's not the sheriff, but he's Officer Hawkins who also shows up, and they both kind of check out the house, find the bodies, and Lori shoots Michael. She gets a shot in at him, and then Michael gets away, and there's this little moment between Hawkins and Lori. They obviously know each other. They obviously have history, but we don't get to explore it, which disappointing. Like he could have been one of Lori's husbands. We don't know.
Well, exactly. And then if his death weren't like wasted, like he's murdered by the fucking stupid doctor.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would have been cool if like
fucking doctor, man.
Because I liked the idea, like when he sees her, it's almost like she's like a person in the town that he's exhausted by, but they have a relationship.
Yeah.
Like it feels like he's like, oh, God damn it, Lori, you again. And for me, I like that. And I felt like she needed someone who like didn't completely fucking hate her or think she was a liar to be on her side.
I feel like that's how a lot of the people in the town are, though. They see her as this old crazy bat lady, but everybody's, except for her own daughter, everybody has a little bit of sympathy for her because, you know, she's just like poor Lori, you know. But whatever. Earlier I did, just kind of taking it back to that walk that the three teenagers were on. I do think that the point that Dave made was really good, was that only a couple people really died in that original Halloween movie. You know, by today's standards, that's not even really that bad. So, like, and they're like, but it was still horrible. She almost died. And, like, yeah, but, like, compared to today, like, and he's right, you know, we got school shootings, we got all this stuff, and, like, that 1978 Halloween movie seems very tame compared to, you know, real world events that are happening today, you know? So I think that's a good kind of point they're playing off of in this movie.
Well, I mean, I have this in my notes like 3 times, and I've tried not to say it every time. That's why they should have fucking kept H2O as a movie that happened. This would still make sense if she ended up here after H2O. It would still fucking make sense. And like,
no fucking way.
H2O is a good movie. And it just, I feel like it would have advanced the plot here. Like, her like going crazy after beheading him and like, he came back. Maybe we just have it be that he did come back and like, he's in this institution. Sure. And I just feel like that makes sense because it's like, she's been attacked so many times. Yes, she's going to have all these guns. Yes, she's going to have like all this shit. But like 40 years...
I just think, no, if H2O would have been in the fold, it's just too muddy. It's too muddy. It's like so nonsensical. It just, we're not going to agree.
Nonsensical?
It's totally nonsensical for her to like fake her death and then go off and become like a headmistress of a school only to end up back in Haddonfield. And like, it's so convoluted. It just, no. I'm glad that for this sequel, they did do that.
I'm ready to fight with you.
I don't give a fuck, Ian. I will fight with you. Let me take off some of this shit. Take off my earrings and everything. No, we are not going to agree on that. H2O in the fold would not have made any fucking sense. Lori, so basically, at this point, Lori is gathering her family. She is taking everybody, making Karen go to her fucking house. Everybody's
she
going
should
to her
be
house.
being like, I told you so, but she's like...
but she's too like, hurry up, everybody! Hurry!
Yeah.
I love her when they're at her house and everybody's kind of arguing and she gets so fucking frustrated. And she's like, Karen, get inside! It's great.
I mean, she's right. At this point, I'm like,
Everybody needs to listen to her. It needs. I don't know. I mean, thinking in real world events, like they probably wouldn't cancel Halloween, which is fucked.
I know.
Just
Yeah,
fucked.
You're right.
But a killer who
Donald
loves
Trump
to
would
murder
tweet
on
that
Halloween
Lori-
has done it twice, 1963 and 1978. No, we're not going to close down Halloween tonight.
Like, Donald Trump would tweet about how it was fake news and they were overreacted and Laurie Strode was stupid woman. Like,
Probably. Yeah. Allison has left the dance because she's mad at Cameron for kissing another girl and throwing her phone in the pudding, but she don't get her phone back. She's walking home with this guy named Oscar. Fucking Oscar. It's just another character that didn't really need to be here. Oscar's this.
is he the?
drunk
No, he's
teenage-
not. Never mind.
He's the drunk teenage boy, like in the devil costume. Yeah, he tries to kiss her, and she's like, "I don't want to kiss you. Like, we were just walking home together." And she leaves him. She ditches him. He gets murdered. She hears him screaming, goes back, sees him, fucking like hung up on a gate, which is pretty gross. But she sees Michael come walking up, and she takes off. And I feel like this scene kind of went nowhere. We got this huge like build up to a chase scene, and then it did nothing really happened with it. I mean, I guess I don't know. No. I would have liked to see something. This was Laurie's chase scene. You know, running to the neighbors, banging on the door, nobody really letting her in. This was that, but this one didn't do anything. The cops show up, take Allison. Hawkins takes Allison, and Hawkins is also riding with Sartain. They see Michael. They run Michael over. Sartain's like, "Don't kill him. Don't kill Michael." So we already know something's fucking up here. Hawkins getting out, and he's gonna kill Michael, but Sartain kills Hawkins. Allison's like stuck in the back. She should have used her heel and busted out the cop window and gotten
Sarah
out.
Michelle
We've seen it
Gellar
happen.
knew.
Seen it happen. Sartain, like, this is so stupid. This whole doctor plot. We will join forces and agree here, Ian. We will hold hands and run through the fields with this one. This is so stupid. It is a waste of fucking time. This is the biggest criticism I have of this movie.
I just don't understand what they were thinking having this. Like, I truly don't understand what they were thinking this added to the movie.
Yeah.
The doctor could have not been, like, he could have been the guy that introduced the podcasters to Michael at the beginning and never seen again, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
I don't know why we followed him for so long. I don't know why we had to have him. Sure, if you're going to have him, just have Michael kill him. I don't know. He didn't need to kill the cop and, like, trap the... Like, I just felt like have Michael pop up and kill the doctor and the cop then, right? Like... that would have been more of a, like, okay, sure.
But they keep dragging it out, you know? They keep dragging it out. The doctor is just... There's a motive that they've, like, shoved into this movie, which it didn't need. It didn't need this motive. The doctor is, like, really interested in psychology and just wants to know what a killer thinks. And so he tries on Michael Myers' fucking mask and, like, puts Michael in the back of the cop car and, like, drives around and... I don't know. He's fucking taunting Allison and stuff like that. Whatever. Michael Myers kills Dr. Sartain.
Smushes his head.
He, like, stomps his fucking head in. Couldn't have happened any later in the movie, but it happens at least.
But
Allison gets away and runs.
They drive to Laurie's house first.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So Sartain is taking... I guess this is a meeting... So that to bring Michael to Laurie, because really they're not brother and sister anymore. So there's no reason for Michael to ever go after Laurie. He doesn't care about Laurie.
Ooh, what'd you just say? What'd you just say?
I've been saying that since the beginning. That was in our last episode. Michael does not care about Laurie. It does not make any sense for him to go after her or anything like that. But with Laurie in his face, he's like, I'm gonna go kill you. So that's what basically happens here. Sartain brings Allison and Michael to Laurie's house. And that's supposed to be their meeting point. But really, if the night just would have kept going on, Michael would have just killed Haddonfield residents and Laurie would have been paranoid, holed up in her home. Or, no, out probably hunting him or something like that. But Michael doesn't care about Laurie. Yeah, so Michael gets onto Laurie's property and kills Ray. Laurie basically makes Karen go down to the basement to take cover, and Laurie has, like, her gun, and she's waiting for Michael. Michael smashes through the front door, and is like, it looks a little grim for Laurie for a second, you know? She's getting
Because
her
it's like
head-
this
like
older woman
61-year-old lady.
smashed. Yeah. I would be
Getting her
knocked
head
out.
just fucking smashed into this door, and it's like, oh gosh, Laurie, this is rougher than the first one. Your body probably could have handled it a little better in the first one. But Laurie shoots his like 2 of his fucking fingers off, and it's so fucking badass. Fucking love it. Michael gets into the house, and Laurie shoots him through the floorboards, and thinks that she shoots him. So she goes up. We get this really great, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minute scene of her going room to room in this dark house with her gun and a flashlight, and like locking off all of the bedrooms. And you know what? I like it. Not the most realistic. I don't know how she can afford it, all of this top-notch security, but she's got it in her house, and she goes through the house room to room. Upstairs is actually, fun fact, IMDb, is a recreation of the second floor of the Doyle house in the original movie, because what they were going to do for the opening of this movie was add on to that movie, and like do an extended ending for that movie. And then they either didn't have the money for it or something, so they just...
What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean? Wait.
Yeah.
Do an extended ending to the original movie?
Yeah, so after... they were going to do like an apprehension scene, so after Michael gets shot, he kills Dr. Loomis, and like Laurie is the one who like shoots Michael or something like that. They were going to basically rewrite the ending of the other movie. So I'm really glad they didn't do that, because it's just... No.
It is weird that they use this room, though, because it's so obvious that it's a recreate. I mean, I guess that's like an homage in itself, I guess, but it's a little bit too on the nose, I think, because it's like, if I know you did say that to me. Zachary's very cute when we watch his movies, and he's very IMDb fun fact, but I would have definitely noticed that, because it's like distractingly obvious with the like glass doors and the closet. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just felt a little bit distracting.
I think really what it comes down to is just budgetary constraints, and like they had a set that they just needed to use, you know, and so they used it. I do know that if you watch the trailer, there's like an outdoor knife fight scene that was the original ending that didn't test well with audiences. So all of this stuff in the house, her going room to room, was not in the original ending. So I think they reused this set for that. She basically in this room has this upstairs room has a fight with Michael, a knife fight with Michael. He stabs her, he throws her off the balcony, and she's laying there. He looks at her. Allison comes rushing in the front door, screaming grandmother, catches his attention for a second. He looks back. Laurie is gone, just like the first movie, and Michael's gone at the end. That was great. That got a lot of fucking cheers in the theater. People went crazy over that one. Allison goes down into the basement with Karen. Michael comes up. He's gonna attack them both. Karen's pointing a gun at Michael. So this was a really good Judy Greer scene. It was. You know, Judy Greer is in a fucking Christmas sweater the entire movie. Has rejected Halloween, rejected guns, votes Democrat every single time. It's all for the Green New Deal.
The only one in the movie.
Karen fucking... I don't know why Karen didn't just leave Haddonfield, you know? Just
I mean, I would have.
Mexico.
I would have. I absolutely would have.
I know you would have. Karen could have been your roommate in New York, Ian. But no, because she's just such like a weak character throughout the entire movie that it's such a great... Well, I don't think it pays off enough to make up for the rest of the movie, but I think it's a really good, solid moment where she's pointing the gun. She's like screaming to her mom, I can't do it. And us as the audience thinks, fucking hell, this bitch. You know, she's going to drop the gun and Michael's going to go down and whatever. But Michael comes into view and Karen's like, gotcha. Shoots him. So Laurie comes out of the fucking shadows just like Michael Myers did to her. Happy Halloween, Michael. Like, I didn't like her saying Happy Halloween, Michael. I don't like it when they throw little one-liners in there. But they have a little fight. All three women. I like these three. Allison doesn't really do anything. But you know what? I like the other two kind of ganging up, you know? They finally, mother and daughter, come together. And they trap Michael in the basement. Basically, this house is all booby-trapped. I feel like even if Michael didn't end up in the basement, anywhere in the house... Yeah. Laurie had a trap set up, you know. She was ready for him however he was going to come at her. They set the gas off. They set fire to the house. They leave the house. They leave him to burn in the house, which should know that Michael Myers doesn't.
Okay, yeah. So I love the ending so much, but I had the chills. Judy Greer saying "gotcha" and like fucking. So she is useless the entire fucking movie and kind of annoying. But the fact that she like, I I wish the granddaughter didn't stay as helpless as she does. I wish she had also been able to pick it up the way Judy Greer does. It almost made it worth it. And I think that this made the movie for me. Is like the music playing that's like swelling, that like you're like, oh, Michael's gonna kill this mom and her daughter while Laurie's unconscious or wherever. And then she's just like, nope, I'm going to fucking kill you, is so good. Yeah. And then Laurie coming out and like stabbing him and saying happy Halloween, which I think is earned because it's been on Halloween every time.
I'll let it go. It's fun. We'll give it.
And the music play, like the like action-y music. I love a comeuppance. I love a comeuppance. And, you know, I think this is a really good comeuppance. And I just wish... It feels like Laurie would have been smarter and been like, nah, I gotta chop this motherfucker's head off because we shot him off a balcony and he was fine. So, like, we need to, like, dismember this body, not just light him on fire.
Agreed.
And I almost felt, and this isn't like a discredit, it's almost a credit to the movie. Like, I was like, just, no, chop him up so this is the last one so he doesn't haunt you again. Like, I want you to, like, be cool now and be able to be, like, happy.
Yeah, I don't want it to be the last one, which is why I will let the ending go. But character-wise, Laurie Strode would be crazy enough to be like, we are going to spend the rest of the night cutting him into little pieces and putting him in a cooler. Right, like that is the level of crazy she is at this point. But we know there's a sequel, so that's what the ending is for. They set the house on fire, but you know, you are right. Like from the moment Karen says "gotcha," it is like standing at the top of a hill and taking the roll, and they just roll down the hill for the rest of the like 5 minutes of the movie, and it's so fucking good. And they set the house on fire. They all three run out. Laurie's fucking bleeding out, but she used the last bit of that strength to get the job done. And her house goes up in flames. They flag down a truck. They get in the bed of the truck, and they drive off into the night. And we end on Allison holding the knife like she did some shit. I like Allison, though. I do like the actress, Andi Matichak. So I'd like to see her do more. Give her something to do in the next one. But yeah, we've got Halloween, everybody. The next one's supposed to set up like a mob rules kind of movie. Like the whole town just gets all crazy and they go and hunt Michael down. So I'm pretty stoked to see that. But this was a good movie, and I love Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, and I don't mind her revisiting this because, you know, after these three movies, we're not going to get Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode ever again. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm happy with this. Okay. You got any thoughts, Ian? Are you all? So at the end of these movies, Ian always just sits quiet because if he doesn't agree with me or if he got criticisms, he just will sit quiet.
I love how much you love this. Like I like seeing you get excited and be happy about a thing.
Ian does not like this movie because it retcons the rest of the series, which is a good little mini conversation we're going to have real quick.
I feel like what you said and what's his face says in the beginning when he's like, that was like 40 years ago and like 3 people were murdered. That's kind of how I feel. Mm-hmm. But I know in the real world, like, trauma stays with you. But this isn't the real world. This is a movie. And it's a movie with a killer who can, like, smush your head in. So, like, I need it to be a little bit... And, like, in this movie, which is, like, she's become this, like, lunatic because of this trauma, like, this movie's 10 times worse. So it feels like, are we just, like, giving Laurie more trauma? I don't know. And it feels like it would be more earned if the other movies had happened. If Michael... Even if, you know, Laurie's only in, what, the first 2, right? Of that, like, the weird series that were, like, in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Even if they just were like, okay, we're going to, like, give this a vague... Michael Myers killed people and escaped a few times. Then it would be a little bit more earned if we had the first 2 and, like, a vague notion of, like, Michael did some other killings. So Laurie was worried because he's her brother that he was going to come back and kill her. Like... That, for me, makes more sense story-wise. I understand that, like, you know, I think of what Adam Sass said to me the other day, and he's like, you know, blah, 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 like, and then our heads will turn into snakes, like that thing in Halloween, whatever number Halloween that happens. Like, I get that might be too much to include, and I'm totally cool with, like, them being very, like, lax about what is included, but I think the first 2 movies are very important because that makes it way more traumatic. because Laurie is there for most of the murders in 2. She's like very much,
Yeah.
the murders are happening, you know, the nurse dies like right in front of her and is screaming, and like, I wanted, and in the first one, the murders don't really happen in front of her. She finds the bodies, which still is terrible. But for Laurie to be this much, I want it to be, and it is a horror movie. So for me, it's still a horror movie. So we can't go for like, well, realistically. And I'm like, okay, but realistically, there's not a man who can smush my head like with barely any effort in a bathroom after murdering 2 people. I don't know. I need it to be a little bit bigger for her to be this intense. And like, I don't know. For her to be like, to like fuck up her granddaughter's graduation, whatever dinner. I feel like because it's a horror movie, 4 people being murdered feels just like such small potatoes in the horror movie world. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't even, like I said, I haven't seen a lot of the middle Halloween. I haven't seen barely any of them except for like bits on TV. I think H2O is, I think it's a good movie. I can relent that it is very Scream influenced. But I still think she's Laurie Strode. Like, she still feels, it's not like she feels like a teen whatever movie version of Laurie. She still feels like a version
that does that. It's
okay.
It's the way it was made, okay? Because the story-wise, it's good. It's just the way it was made. Let me clarify that real quick, because I'm not shitting on H2O. I love H2O. Okay, I love H2O. Love that movie.
But so for me, I just like, not even just because I like H2O so much, because I mean I haven't revisited it in forever. There might be parts of it I don't like as much, but I can buy in the universe of this horror movie that this woman did fake her own death so that Michael Myers would think she was dead. For me, that feels like, sure. And that, you know, she has these, like, Josh Hartnett's her son in that movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, sure. I don't know. For me, I bought all of that. And I don't think it was, like, a bad, and, like, I think it had a good ending, whatever. I don't know. I just wish it would have built toward, like, for me, it's cooler if we're building towards this. Okay. She goes into seclusion, all of these weapons, and her whole house is a trap for this guy that had murdered all these people. And it would make sense that she's always waiting for him to come back if he had escaped numerous times and done a lot of murders. If it happened once 40 years ago, why is she assuming he's escaping? Because he hasn't escaped in 40 years. So I don't know. That all falls a little flat for me. Like, writing-wise, if I were in one of my fucking, you know, grad school workshops, I would say we need a little bit more trauma is what we need, is what I would say would be my critique of a story where it's 4 people were murdered 40 years ago and this character insists that the villain is coming back even though they're getting rid of all the times he came back.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
I feel like that was a long rant.
No, but I wanted you to say your piece. I did, because I haven't included it in the other ones, and I think this was the perfect one to do it, because you're not the only person, Ian, who has this criticism. They're Halloween fans, like tried and true Halloween fans, hardcore, were very upset that they retcon not only all the sequels, but mainly 2, because it does feel like 1 and 2 are one movie. Wouldn't have been mad if 2 was in there. I'm glad they did retcon from 3 onward, though. It wouldn't have made a difference for me for 2, but I am glad for the rest of them to not be there. And really what it comes down to is, like, the Halloween at this point is a choose-your-own-adventure timeline story. You know, you pick a timeline, you go with it, and you pick which one you like. And that's just what we have at this moment. I think... I don't ever want them to retire Michael Myers, you know? I'd like, after this trilogy, for them to go on with some new story that's not connected to any Laurie Strode storyline or anything like that. Really, don't even reference it. Don't do anything like that. I don't know. Just something. There's some really good Michael Myers comic books. There's one called Night Dance that's really good. I'd like to see a movie version of that, but... yeah, sequels, man, they're they're muddled. They muddy everything. Because I tell you, 6 fucked the series over. 5 really fucked everything over. but 6.
All of them are supernatural, right? After 2, aren't they like
Yeah,
fairly
he's
aggressively
definitely supernatural. Yeah, I think that they definitely go with that. In 6, there's a cult storyline that they've like given him his powers or something like that. I don't know. So those will be
And I
really
mean,
interesting.
granted, he
ones
does have
too.
powers, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, that's where I don't. That's where I will agree with you that I don't need the explanation. But in reality, he does have superpowers, right?
Yeah.
Like he just does. He keeps surviving. He's gonna survive this like being lit on fire in a house that collapsed on him.
And he's like almost 10 years older than Laurie Strode in this too. So he's an old man going through all this, and he's gonna survive.
Still
for 2
smushing
more
faces.
movies. Yeah. So it's suspend your disbelief. But me and Ian are going to. I'm gonna force him to go through all of the sequels with me over time. And we will have fun doing all of those. But for now, I thank you guys so much for coming on this month of Halloween episodes with us. We did all of these. I feel like we did so many too. But from here on out, we're gonna do mostly just audio recordings and a video recording here and there. But this was really funny, and I'm really happy you did this with me, and I thank you so much for doing it with me.
Thanks for wanting to do it with me.
Yeah.
I really loved doing it with you. What are words? I really loved doing this with you.
It's perfect. All right, everybody. Well, I think this is the last one we're doing before the election, so make sure to go and vote for Biden-Harris 2020.
Please.
Your favorite scene, really quick to close this out.
The 1-2 punch of Judy Greer being like, gotcha, and her being like, happy Halloween, Michael.
Everything at Laurie's house. I'd agree with that. All righty. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy Halloween, and take it easy.